And you'll be here at Christians Against Poverty in Bradford. At their office, we've had a tour, which was brilliant. Went to all the different floors and met lots of people. And I have my first guest in front of me. Hello, Claire.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Now, you are one of the team here at CAP Bradford. Just give us a bit of an overview. What's your job title here?
So I am Head of Strategic Communications, which means I head up our internal communications function, which includes our PR and news. So meeting folks like you today, but also our brand management, our video production, website, digital marketing, copywriting, the whole suite of the outgoing message of Christians Against Poverty.
Which is an important message. I mean, I even like the green colour. And maybe that's your thing or not, but I love the green because green for me is life, it's hope, and it's summer and spring.
Yeah, it is. It is that sense of newness, the sense of growth, of opportunity, of hope, really, and that absolutely did factor into the selection of the colour palette, which is one aspect of our brand. A few years back when we overhauled that, yeah.
So I know you've been here for a little while.
A little while.
How far can we go back on CAP? So it's 1996, wasn't it?
That's when CAP was founded, yeah, by John Kirkby, and then they did a little bit of time before I joined them in 2005, and at the point when I joined, we were still very much an early founding entrepreneurial kind of team. There were around 35 staff-ish in the Bradford office, and around 30 debt centres around the UK, but Debt Help was the only service that we offered at that time when I joined, and yeah, it was a really small, really agile, like non-corporate family environment that just made me feel straight at home, really.
So you settled in quickly to the job. I've just walked around to people smiling, which you don't always get. And sometimes I'm shown a nice view of stuff, but actually what's lovely is when I get told what it is, then you meet the people and think, this really is what it is. This is happy people who are loving their jobs, loving working together, which means everybody wins.
Yeah. One of our cultural values is joyful, but that's not a superficial level of joy. That's joy that comes from Christ, and that joy is what carries you through really tough stuff. So a lot of the people who you said you've walked around and seen people smiling, they're making really difficult phone calls or receiving really difficult phone calls every day and having conversations with people who are facing extremely hard circumstances. But what they have in that moment, their opportunity, is to bring the truth of the gospel message, the truth of God's opinion of that person's identity, the fact that they are valued for who they are, not what they do, and that message, it's such a wonderful thing to be able to deliver into a situation where hopelessness has absolutely had the mic for sometimes years and sometimes generations.
When I was walking around, I was shown a wall with lots of quotes from some of your clients over the years, and the one that really jumped out at me was, "I can sleep now," basically. That's my paraphrase of it, and I thought, that sums up such an important element of any kind of stress in life, but debt in particular. We've had issues. We had a business in 2009, went down through the recession, and we had debt, and we weren't sleeping. And that affects everything. So the fact that they're actually now able to sleep means there's an awful lot of stuff that's been resolved one way or another.
I mean, the thing with poverty is it is a massive thief. It just steals, and sleep is one aspect of that, but it steals your ability to participate in society at just a normal level that would be expected by you or I. It steals the ability to say yes to your child's invitation to a birthday party because you can't afford a present for the birthday kid. It steals your ability to accept an invitation to the pub for a quick drink with friends after work, because you can't afford that. You can't afford it, and the fear of someone saying, "Will you get the next round in?" just shuts down your opportunity. And you think those are just really small things, but actually what poverty does is it amplifies thing after thing after thing. You can't invite someone around to your home because you've only got a tiny amount of milk left in the fridge, so you can't offer them a cup of tea, or your electric's been cut off, so your house is freezing cold and you can't turn the lights on. And it creates a real sense of isolation, and then that warps people's perception of their value and who they are, and what is possible in their lives, because it just locks them down, and holds them there.
I can definitely understand some of those elements, having been through some stuff back in 2009. It does, and I remember going to churches. Oh, let's have a meal out as a group, and we would just disappear out the conversation because we don't have 50 quid for a meal out because we haven't got electric and we haven't got food or shoes for the kids.
Yeah.
And I think for some people, when you say you haven't got much money, or have you had a rough month? Well, maybe, but actually for us, we were on a debt management plan because we had some business debt. So every month we had zero disposable income for years. When something broke, it's not like you could save up for it.
Yeah, and that's the thing with someone whose route out of debt is a debt management plan. That's in some ways that's a strong position in comparison to a lot of the people who we are helping. And I think one of the trends that we've really noticed in recent years, certainly with the cost of living crisis, so on and so forth, is the rise in what we call deficit budgets, which is essentially you take someone's income and you look at their non-extravagant life survival outgoings of buying food, getting their bus fare into their job, providing clothes for their children, buying washing powder so that they can maintain hygiene levels, that sort of stuff. You put those in and their income doesn't even reach it. And so it's the wrong way round, and they've got no chance before they've even had a chance. And so for those people, the only feasible option is to look at insolvency routes. And so we have seen a rise in people for whom that's the only solution. And insolvency is not about taking an easy way out. People are looking at insolvency options because there is no other route for them. There is no other option because their income, they're never going to pay their debts back. We're looking at people who've got a repayment term, if you calculated it, sometimes upwards of 100 years. And again, it's not because people have taken out credit to buy frivolous items. It's that they're taking out credit to pay their supermarket bill. And if you stop and think about that for a moment and really let it rest, and imagine yourself in that scenario where you were considering taking out a credit card or a short-term loan with a ridiculously high interest rate just to buy bread, milk, the daily essentials. How is that okay in our society, in a wealthy nation, in a developed nation, that people are actually facing those impossible options?
It sounds crazy. And it almost sounds unbelievable, except for the fact it's not unbelievable.
It's not, sadly.
This is people's daily lives, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. And one of the things in my job that is, to be honest, I've had a massive privilege. I joined in 2005 as our first ever in-house graphic designer, and I've worked in the communications function ever since. The privilege I have from the position I sit in the organisation is we are the tellers of the good news stories. Now, we do also explain to people the reality of UK poverty, as I've just done verbally, but we get that privilege of meeting individuals, of hearing them and helping them to tell their story and providing a platform for thousands of people to hear that. And so I've met numerous people over the years, but one individual who really sticks out for me is a lady called Tina, who lived down in Kent. And back in 2018, I went down to film with her and spent a day with her, and just the most welcoming, warm, individual you could hope to imagine. She was hilarious. We had such a laugh. But her circumstance was that she was facing multiple chronic health conditions. she as a result, she couldn't earn. Her income from benefits was not enough to meet her outgoings, and she ended up, as I said, completely isolated, completely shut down. She kept her curtains closed because she didn't want people to really even know she was home. She had to take the light bulbs out because then she couldn't turn the lights on and use the electricity. She in the winter, because of that, her days kind of finished when the sun went down.
Wow.
So come 4 p.m, she just went to bed because there was no other thing she could do. She couldn't do a cross stitch or a craft that she loves to do in the darkness. So her day stopped at 4 p.m.
Wow.
and she never saw a soul. Now, for Tina, the amazing thing is that her story didn't stop there, thankfully, because there was a local church in her area that was running a debt centre, and she was able to connect with them, find a solution to her debts, become debt-free. The financial situation, brilliant, we've solved that. However, she found a family. She found a group of people who loved her for who she was, who didn't just come, do the tasks that their job required and then clock off at the end of the day. She received invitations to be part of a church environment, to be part of events, to come to craft events, to get further money education as part of our money coaching service. So she was invited to attend that, and she really found complete life transformation, and then also found Christ. So the gospel was shared with her. She had seen and experienced firsthand, like the agendaless love of Christ's church, and that opened her mind up to considering, what does this mean for me, and exploring faith for herself. And she later went on to be baptized. She volunteers in the church. Life's still really, really difficult. We all know that becoming a Christian isn't a magical wand that fixes everything. Otherwise, there'd be no gospel message to share, because people would just be like, magic wand, I'll have that. Yeah. Life's still difficult for Tina, but life is transformed and continues to be transformed. That was 2018. We're now in 2025, I still see Tina occasionally popping up on our Facebook page in the comments section, and we've just. It's wonderful, the longevity of the impact to see and to witness people being able to actually live their lives to the fullness that God intended, being a full participant in society, being able to be part of an active church, to be developing that relationship with Christ, to understand who she really is in God's eyes. It's the full package, and that's what makes it so exciting.
The other thing you said was an agenda less love.
Yes.
There is no agenda for the love of God, and I love that you said that. Yeah. Because that, to me, surely is the heart of any Christian organisation, whether it's Christians, I don't know, in politics or in sport or churches or against poverty. We should be coming without that agenda. Yeah. To just bring God's love. We're not here to fix people. Yes, help them resolve stuff. I met some of the folk upstairs. You've got some really specific skill sets and knowledge, which is really important. But ultimately, it's about whatever your issues are, Jesus actually really is the full completion of the answer. Yeah,
and the reason why this movement of people is so crucial is because it only functions via the church. The UK church, the local churches, the hands and feet of God in our communities, actually stepping up and saying, God has commissioned us to remember those who are in poverty, to make space for those who are marginalised, who are forgotten, who are downtrodden, and actually tell them, you are not a group that is different to us. We are all people, and we are all identical in God's eyes, and so there is no other way for us to do this. Okay, it's symbiotic. That without churches, CAP would not exist. Without our expertise, the impact that churches could have in this area would not exist in the same way. And so it's really an equal partnership, and we exist just to equip and to ready the church in whichever community they're in, to be able to get out there and actually reach beyond what they might be able to do completely under their own steam. So we're here to enable and to equip, and it's just wonderful to see the transformation that happens in churches as well, and in the lives of those who volunteer as part of whatever service is being run by that church alongside us. To see the discipleship and the growth in faith that happens for those people as well is also really wonderful to watch.
This being radio, people can't see your face. However, what I'm seeing is someone full of joy and loving what you do. So let me finish with this question for you. Why do you want to get up in the morning and come to work at Christians Against Poverty? There's some really hard things that have to be dealt with every single day. What makes you want to come to work every day?
It's justice. We serve a God of justice, and that is what gets me out of bed every day. Because some of this stuff is heartbreaking. A lot of this stuff is heartbreaking, and there's no other complete solution than the gospel message alongside the practical impact of God's people on earth. And if I can make a difference by ensuring that a message is amplified to way more people than might hear it otherwise, then I'm going to keep coming up. I'm going to keep showing up. 20 years later, I might be here in another 20 years, who knows? I'm just going to keep going, because it's just unbelievable the impact that can be had by, in essence, it's such a simple thing. Show up, treat someone as your equal, show them that they are worth it, bring the expertise of the debt counsellors here, and watch what God does.
It doesn't get much better, really. Watch what God does. Thank you for sharing some of that story.
You're welcome.
Some of you being here. We've got many more guests coming across
We have.
through the next 5 hours, so I'm going to go to some more music. This one is Chris Tomlin, God's Great Dance Floor, which I've chosen because when you've been in debt, and we had a business that went down through a recession, there is a joy to the knowledge of the fact that even though you've got difficulties, God is central.
Absolutely.
You just have to turn. Sometimes we don't necessarily see him as much as we want to. He's already there. So I love God's Great Dance Floor, and I'll see who next is coming up to talk to you. The June issue of Pure Media, the magazine, comes out on Friday the 7th of June, with a whole host of international writers speaking on life, faith, sports, technology, joy and more, from our family to yours. In the June edition, we shine the spotlight on Sherry Seligson, a marine biologist from Florida, and Chris Kerr, who helps us focus and celebrate on dads. Sign up today and enjoy all of this and more at www.puremediathemagazine.com.